Hi. In just a few minutes from now, you're going to discover how a date from hell that included the most crushing and embarrassing moment of this man's entire life led him on a journey towards a truly shocking discovery that allowed him to instantly regrow years of lost hair and go from this to this in just 30 days and do it 100% naturally with no medication, no over-the-counter hair loss treatments, and no expensive surgical procedures of any kind. And if you continue watching this free presentation, you will discover exactly what you need to do to achieve the same results yourself and start seeing a miraculous regrowth of hair within the next months that will leave your friends and family speechless, and every person you know with receding hair or bald spots absolutely desperate to know your secret. What's more, the completely natural method you're about to be shown will cost you barely any money at all, and it's so easy to do. You can put this simple treatment into action from the comfort of your own home starting today. During this controversial presentation, you'll discover why everything you thought you knew about hair loss is dead wrong, and the reason for your rapidly disappearing locks has absolutely nothing to do with the aging process or genetics, but is instead all down to a little-known and poorly understood enzyme that has effectively instructed your hair follicles to stop producing new hair. Based on sensational new research carried out by a team of doctors at the University of Pennsylvania and Johns Hopkins University, and published in countless peer-reviewed medical journals, this scientific breakthrough is currently making waves across the globe, forcing many well-known and established hair loss companies into scrapping new products and creating a desperate scramble amongst pharmaceutical companies who all want to be the first to develop a blockbuster drug. But let me repeat, the treatment you're about to be shown is not a drug. It's a 100% natural treatment that will work regardless of whether you're as bald as a golf ball, are male or female, aged 18 or 80, and even if your doctor has told you it's medically impossible to regrow your hair, because the truth is, it's not. In fact, this has already been used to help 62,786 men and women to regrow thick, full, and healthy hair in as little as a few weeks. If you're feeling like less of a man or woman because of your hair loss, if you're becoming depressed and upset having to watch your hair literally falling out in front of your eyes whenever you take a shower, if you're worried that your wife, husband, or partner is finding you less attractive and that your chances of meeting someone are being dramatically reduced by your hair loss, and if your confidence has been shattered by your receding hairline or bald spots, then sit back, make yourself comfortable, and put any plans you have on hold for just a few more minutes, because by the end of this presentation, you will know exactly what you need to do to regrow a thick and full head of hair, 100% naturally, boost your confidence and self-esteem, and look years younger in no more than a few weeks from now. But before I reveal any more, there's something I need to tell you. Because this isn't a drug, and because it's producing such incredible results for everybody who tries it, Big Pharma are doing everything in their power to shut this website down before too many people find out about it. As I speak, a number of pharmaceutical companies are working on a drug based on this new research, which will net them trillions of dollars over the next decade. Of course, they don't want you to know that a drug isn't necessary, and that this hair-killing enzyme can be destroyed naturally, and as a result, I have already been threatened with legal action if I continue to show this presentation. So I urge you to watch this video until the very end, and discover this secret while you still can, because there's no guarantee it will still be up tomorrow, or even in a few hours from now.
Well, to be honest, I was expecting just a few fine hairs, but after 30 days I was shocked at the difference. And after 2 months, well, my receding hairline had virtually gone back to what it was like 10 years ago. Absolutely fantastic.
In less than 30 days, I have regrown most of my hair, and it's now as thick as it was in my 20s. I have so much more confidence now.
Just 1 month ago, I had a massive bald patch on top of my head, and fast forward to today, and what I see in the mirror is nothing short of a miracle.
Hi, my name is David McKenna. I'm 34 years old, and I live in East Providence, Rhode Island. And in just a moment, I'm going to reveal the natural hair growing secret, and I'm also going to show you the medical research that explains why and how this treatment works so well. But before I tell you exactly what you need to do to get a full and thick head of hair in as little as 30 days from now, I'd first like to tell you how I stumbled upon this discovery. And believe me, this isn't easy for me to do, because what I'm about to reveal was one of the most embarrassing and soul-destroying moments in my entire life. It all started in my early 20s, when I noticed my hair starting to thin and then literally begin to fall out in clumps in the shower. I'd wake up in the morning and find dozens more hairs on my pillow, and I'd start every day depressed and self-conscious about my appearance. Over the years, I developed a prominent receding hairline and bald spot on the top of my head, which made me look like I was in my 40s, when in reality, I was only in my mid-20s. My confidence took a beating, and that coupled with the fact that I was losing all of my hair meant that I had zero interest from girls, which was becoming increasingly depressing when all of my friends were in relationships and some were even getting married. Like anyone losing their hair and suffering from these kinds of confidence and self-esteem issues, I was desperate to find a solution. First, I tried Rogaine and used it for 6 months, twice a day as directed. But although this seemed to slightly slow down the loss of my existing hair, it did absolutely nothing to grow it back. And at around $50 a month, I'd be paying $600 a year for barely any noticeable results. Next, I tried finasteride medication in the form of Propecia tablets, but it didn't do anything more than create a few pathetic little fluffs of hair. What's more, the finasteride drug, which is infamous for its side effects, didn't disappoint on that front either. I suffered from bizarre swelling in my hands and feet, dizziness, headaches, and a weird rash on my legs and arms and difficulty urinating. And like a lot of men who take finasteride, I completely lost the urge to have sex and couldn't keep an erection, which, let's face it, it wasn't a huge problem for me considering I couldn't get a girlfriend, but still, it was really worrying. Plus, after researching finasteride a little more, I found that even if you do regrow some hair, all of that new hair falls out again within a few months if you stop taking the drug. And this was a massive problem. Finasteride had cost me over $1,000 for the year, yet I wasn't seeing any real noticeable growth other than a few fluffy hairs. The hair loss had slowed down, but that wasn't enough for me. So if I continued, I'd be paying $10,000 over the next decade for virtually no improvement at all. After that, it was time to look into the hair transplant option. But not only was this incredibly expensive, at anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000, but I didn't like the idea of someone slicing through my scalp. I'd heard about a whole bunch of horror stories of people left with terrible scarring, and other cases where the transplanted hair actually goes into shock and falls out, and incredibly, causes existing hair to do the same. And what's worse, even if it does work, what most doctors won't tell you is that your hair keeps receding behind the transplanted area, so within a few years, you're forced into paying for another procedure and then another for the rest of your life, costing you tens of thousands of dollars each time. And if you choose not to pay for more surgery, you'll wind up with bald patches behind the transplanted area, which will make your head look pretty strange. In short, if I went down this route, I'd become a prisoner to the transplant for the rest of my life. So after years of spending heaps of money on drugs and sprays and getting nowhere, and rejecting the idea of expensive and potentially dangerous surgery, I decided to face the truth and let nature take its course. I decided to accept that I'd be bald for the rest of my days, that I'd have to go through life feeling insecure and self-conscious, that no woman would ever find me attractive, and that I'd probably be single and alone for the rest of my life as a result. Well, that would have been the case if it wasn't for that embarrassing moment I talked about earlier. You see, I was out playing tennis with a friend when a couple girls started chatting to us. I was really attracted to one of them, called Sarah, and amazingly, she seemed to like me too, hanging on to my every word. It felt incredible. We exchanged numbers and over the next few days texted each other hundreds of times until we finally agreed to meet up for a date. And that's when it happened. I was sat there at the restaurant waiting for Sarah, and in she walked. She looked stunning, the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. And here I was, nervous as hell, about to have dinner with her. I finally caught Sarah's eye and motioned to her to come over, but something wasn't right. She stood staring at me for a few seconds and eventually walked over. I asked her if she was okay, and that's when she hit me with it. "I didn't realize you were bald," Sarah said, staring at my head. "You were wearing a cap at the tennis courts. I'm really sorry to do this to you, but I've got to go." And with that bombshell, she walked straight out of the restaurant, leaving me standing there in the middle of the room, crushed, embarrassed, and heartbroken. A whole bunch of people in the restaurant saw what had happened. The couple next to me could see how much of an impact her words had on me, and kindly offered to buy me dinner, but I didn't want to stay. I felt like crying. I picked up my phone, put on my jacket, went straight home. For the next 3 weeks, I barely left the house. I was so depressed. But then something happened that would change everything. Late one night, I was sitting alone in my bedroom, flicking through radio stations when I heard the words, "revolutionary treatment for hair loss." I frantically grabbed the knob on the radio to get back to the station and listen. According to the report, researchers at the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania had made a startling discovery. During clinical trials, they'd found that people losing their hair all had something in common: an abnormally high amount of a little-known enzyme called prostaglandin D2, or PGD2. During the study, when PGD2 was added to human follicles in a petri dish, hair growth was dramatically reduced, and the researchers also found that animals with high levels of prostaglandin D2 lacked hair completely. But most importantly, the study concluded that the culprit responsible for activating the PGD2 protein was a receptor called GPR44, which stands for G protein coupled receptor 44. The researchers discovered the binding of GPR44 with PGD2 effectively instructed hair follicles to stop producing hair. The remarkable findings, which were supported by another study carried out at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, were published in the renowned medical journals Science Transitional Medicine and the Journal of Investigative Dermatology. Finally, it seemed like science had discovered the real reason for hair loss, and it was PGD2. All the researchers now needed to do was develop a way of blocking the activation of the GPR44 receptor, which would subsequently stop it from binding to PGD2. Do this, and not only would current hair loss be stopped, but it would enable hair follicles to start producing new hairs again, just as they did when you were a kid. I couldn't believe it. I sat there open-mouthed, full of excitement and renewed hope. But then the last few words of the radio report hit me like a 10-ton truck. Apparently, this revolutionary new drug wouldn't be available for years, and they weren't lying. When I looked into it, it turns out that the average time it takes for a new drug to go from the laboratory to the pharmacy shelf is 12 years. 12 years! I couldn't wait 12 minutes, let alone 12 years. I was desperate to know more about PGD2, so I contacted the universities for more information. In fact, I bombarded them with phone calls, letters, and emails, and even turned up at Johns Hopkins hoping for the chance to speak to one of the lead researchers. But after weeks of waiting, I'd heard nothing back, not even the courtesy of a reply to my emails and letters. As the weeks rolled by, I became more and more resigned to the fact that I'd be in my mid-40s or early 50s before this blockbuster drug would ever hit the market. But then, completely out of the blue, I received an email that launched me on my journey towards a thick, full, and healthy head of hair. It came from a Dr. Anish Dravid. Dr. Dravid had been one of the researchers on the team that had discovered the role of PGD2 in hair loss, and in his email he explained that he had some news that I'd be interested in hearing, and left a number for me to call him on. I called Dr. Dravid immediately, and what followed was the most eye-opening 40 minutes of my life. According to Dr. Dravid, the team at the Perelman School of Medicine hadn't just discovered that the GPR44 receptor activated PGD2, a process that was responsible for hair loss. They'd also gone one step further and discovered how to block the GPR44 receptor and stop the production of PGD2 altogether. And the best part was, they'd managed to do this 100% naturally, with no drugs of any kind. Apparently, after 14 months of testing, the research team had discovered that a particular combination of natural ingredients could be used to successfully block the GPR44 receptor. Their findings were later backed up by a study carried out at the College of Natural Sciences at Soonchunhyang University in South Korea, which found that a particular type of green tea significantly inhibited prostaglandin D2, while another study at the University of Athens Medical School in Greece concluded that the natural flavonoids quercetin and luteolin also inhibited production of PGD2. Dr. Dravid explained that the team had trialed the formula on 74 subjects with varying degrees of hair loss, and during the 6-month trial, every single person had experienced a spectacular regrowth of new hair. I couldn't believe it, and asked Dr. Dravid why they hadn't released this natural formula to the public. And what he told me next still makes me angry to this day. Dr. Dravid explained that the word had got out about the discovery and the incredible success of the trial results, and 3 separate pharmaceutical companies had threatened to pull their funding from the Perelman School of Medicine if the research team were allowed to continue with their trials. Apparently, more than 75% of the medical school's funding came from Big Pharma, and they couldn't afford to lose it. So within just 2 weeks of the trial ending, Dr. Dravid's lab was shut down, the entire team were reassigned to other projects, and the trial results were confiscated. Disgusted by the university's decision, Dr. Dravid quit there and then, and it wasn't hard to see why the pharmaceutical companies had been so desperate to block the research. As Dr. Dravid explained to me, they didn't want the world to know that there was now a completely natural and inexpensive way to treat hair loss, when they knew a drug would net them billions, or even trillions in profits. Think I'm exaggerating? Well, believe me, I'm not. According to the American Hair Loss Association, Americans already spend more than $3.5 billion a year in an attempt to treat their hair loss. What's more, by the age of 35, 2/3 of men will experience some degree of hair loss. And by the age of 50, about 85% of men have significantly thinner hair. Just think about the size of that market. Not to mention all the women in the world who suffer from hair loss too. There's no way in the world Big Pharma would want to lose out on that amount of money. They do everything in their power to stop any kind of natural product from ever getting to the market. And that's exactly what they did. After hearing everything Dr. Dravid had told me, I was desperate to get my hands on this natural formula, and I pleaded with him to let me have it so I could try it out for myself. Dr. Dravid explained that he didn't have the exact formula anymore, but he would be happy to revisit his research and start again. In fact, he told me that in the time since he had quit the university, he'd worked out a way to improve the formula even more. 5 days later, I flew to Pennsylvania to meet with Dr. Dravid. And over the next 4 months, we worked together to recreate and improve the natural formula that the team at the Perelman School of Medicine had found was able to block the GPR44 receptor and stop the production of PGD2. After months of perfecting the formula and testing hundreds of natural ingredients on mice and human follicles, Dr. Dravid was confident that he'd landed on the ultimate treatment for hair loss. It was time for another human trial, and this time, I would be the guinea pig. Dr. Dravid told me to stick to the protocol, and within a month, I would see a difference. He was right. Within the first 30 days, I could definitely see a noticeable improvement. I couldn't believe it. It was actually working. Here's a picture taken before I started the protocol. And here's one after just 30 days. As you can see, I had grown new, thicker hair. My receding hairline was moving back south and new hairs were starting to come through, gradually filling in my bald spot. After the next few months, I literally jumped out of bed every morning, excited to see if any new hairs were coming through. And they were. It was amazing to watch. With every week that went by, more and more hair would return, until I had the full, thick, and healthy head of hair that I haven't seen since my late teens, until eventually I looked like this. I met up with Dr. Dravid again to perform some blood tests and to check my PGD2 levels, and even Dr. Dravid was amazed at the difference. The GPR44 receptor had been blocked so successfully that I only had trace amounts of the PGD2 enzyme in my system. The results were astounding, and the most amazing thing was, the formula I was using contained completely natural ingredients that could be picked up for nothing more than a few pennies at my local grocery store. Within a few months, I looked like a man in his 20s again, instead of someone in his 40s or 50s. I had tons of confidence, and walked down the street feeling 10 foot tall. Girls were looking at me smiling, and I started to hit the town's major night spots every weekend, chatting to girls and having fun, instead of being alone in my house depressed and lonely. My friends couldn't believe what had happened, and kept grabbing and pulling at my hair, convinced that I must be wearing a wig or that I had had a hair transplant. Within just a few weeks, I had a girlfriend too, a beautiful woman called Laura. And bizarrely, I actually bumped into Sarah again on a night out, the girl who had caught one look at my bald head and ran out of the restaurant just the year before. It was obvious she didn't recognize me, and at the end of the game she came over and started chatting to me, just like before. I kept thinking that any second she would remember me, but she didn't, so I asked her for her number and promised to call. I didn't call, and it felt fantastic. After a few weeks, I decided that it was about time I started to think about other people and not just myself. After all, I couldn't in good conscience keep this to myself. It wouldn't be right. And when there were literally hundreds of millions of people out there feeling depressed and miserable because of their hair loss, and desperate for a solution. So I contacted Dr. Dravid, urging him to help me release the treatment to the public. We have to get this out there, I said. The world has to know about this. It could help millions of people. Eventually, Dr. Dravid agreed that he couldn't let Big Pharma win, and if they came after him, so be it. People had to know there was a completely natural and inexpensive way to treat hair loss, and there was no need to wait more than 10 years for a drug. So with Dr. Dravid's help, I created a comprehensive, step-by-step, easy-to-follow hair restoration program that anyone can follow, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And we called it Dr. Dravid's Regrow Your Hair Protocol. This simple and easy-to-follow program contains the exact step-by-step formula that I used to regrow a full and thick head of hair in just 30 days, transform my confidence and self-esteem, and feel happier than I have in years. Incredibly, Dr. Dravid's protocol succeeded in just 30 days, where medication and over-the-counter hair loss treatments had failed for over 10 years. And I want you to experience the same benefits yourself, starting today. As part of this revolutionary and completely natural hair restoration program, you will receive Dr. Dravid's Natural Foods for Natural Hair, which includes the most up-to-date and complete list of Dr. Dravid's miracle ingredients, scientifically proven to address the root cause of your hair loss, the activation of the GPR44 receptor. which in turn will dramatically reduce the PGD2 enzyme in your body, effectively instructing your hair follicles to start regrowing a thick, full, and healthy head of hair again, regardless of how much hair you've lost, how old you are, or whether you're male or female. As well as this list of powerful foods, you will also be given Dr. Dravid's hair-raising recipe guide, which comes complete with XX delicious and easy-to-prepare recipes, complete with all the ingredients and directions you need to get all of these foods into as many of your meals as possible. And finally, you will also receive Dr. Dravid's Hairy Smoothies. I've included this additional guide because I completely understand how busy and stressful life can be, and not all of us can fit in 3 meals a day. So if you're pushed for time, you can still give your body exactly what it needs to block the activation of the GPR44 receptor, with great tasting and nutritious shakes. And don't forget, this is a 100% natural and completely safe treatment program, so there is absolutely zero risk to your health. What's more, we're not talking about completely altering your diet here or starving yourself. I couldn't do that, and I don't expect you to either. Instead, all you need to do is add a few of these powerful natural ingredients to as many of your meals as you can each day. And within the program, I'll be revealing the exact amounts and combinations you need to achieve the fastest possible results. That's literally all it takes to prevent the GPR44 receptor from being activated, which will not only stop any further hair loss, but will allow you to start regrowing new hair again, just as you did when you were a kid. And just imagine for a moment how that would feel. Imagine no longer feeling self-conscious about your hairline. Imagine the confidence that you'll have when you look in the mirror, and for the first time in years or even decades, see a thick and full head of hair staring back at you. Imagine being able to style your hair again and play around with it with wax, gel, or mousse until it looks just like it did when you were in your teens or early 20s. And imagine the feeling you'll have when you walk down the street feeling 10 feet tall and looking 10 years younger. Thousands of men and women just like you are experiencing these feelings right now. And it's all thanks to Dr. Dravid's completely natural hair restoration program. People like Benjamin Bailey from San Antonio, Texas, who said, "Dr. Dravid's program has literally changed my life. Going bald was a nightmare for me. I'm 28 years old, and I hate to admit it, but I'm a pretty vain guy. And hair looking good was a massive factor in my confidence levels. I had tried everything from minoxidil to Propecia, but the results were minimal at best, and I experienced some unpleasant side effects too, which forced me to stop. I'm so thankful for this program. Within just 30 days, I could already see a difference. And 3 months on, I have the hairline I had when I was 21. And Larry Henderson of Flint, Michigan emailed in to say this, "David, I just wanted to thank you for everything you have done, and for getting this treatment out to the public, and to people like me. I started losing my hair in my mid-20s, and I have hated looking in the mirror every day since. I tried all the usual treatments with no success, and had very little faith that this would work either. I am so glad I decided to abandon my skepticism and try it. It has been the best money I have ever spent in my entire life, and I feel so much happier. Thank you." And Michael Costas of Aurora, Illinois, wrote in to say this, "I used to hate the way I looked. I was really insecure and lacking in confidence because of my receding hairline, and I would wear caps whenever I went out. I feel like this program has done so much more than put hair on the top of my head. It has made me feel like my old self again, confident, happy, and outgoing. What Dr. Dravid has achieved is nothing short of a miracle. I have thousands more success stories just like those, from people all over the world, who have used this program to regrow years of lost hair, boost their confidence and self-esteem, and look years younger in a matter of weeks. And because of the results these people were seeing, together with the risks we were taking in developing this treatment and then making it available to the public, I'm sure you can understand why we originally considered charging as much as $597 for it. But here's the thing, I didn't create this website to make money. I did it because I know firsthand how upsetting it can be to watch your hair fall out day after day, to feel less attractive and less of a man or woman, and not be able to do anything about it. To be so desperate for a solution that you're prepared to pump your body full of toxic drugs or have your scalp sliced open with a knife and pay thousands of dollars for the privilege. Believe me, I know exactly what you're going through, and I don't want you to feel that way any longer. And after seeing the stunning results of this treatment for myself, there was no way I could deny others the opportunity to experience these results for themselves. So the last thing I want is for price to be a factor in your decision. As a result, there's no way I'm going to ask you to pay anything like $597, even though that would still be an absolute bargain for what you're getting access to here. And I'm not going to ask you to pay $397 either, or $197, or even $97 for that matter. Instead, you can claim Dr. Dravid's Regrow Your Hair Protocol for the one-time only price of just $37, which is enough to cover my costs and allow me to keep this website running. And all you need to do is click on the Add to Order button below. Once you do that, You will be sent through our secure checkout page where you can enter your details, and from there, you will be directed straight through to our private members area where you can download the entire program to your PC, laptop, cell phone, or tablet and start your journey towards a full, thick, and healthy head of hair within the next 2 minutes. But here's something else you need to know. I completely understand if you're feeling a little skeptical about everything that you've just seen and heard during this presentation. I would be too. So to put your mind at rest, I've decided to include a rock-solid 60-day money-back guarantee with every order. This means all you have to say right now is maybe. And you can then take advantage of our full 2-month risk-free trial where you can put Dr. Dravid's protocol to the test, read the guide, try out all the recipes and smoothies. And if you don't see a dramatic lowering in your hairline and a noticeable improvement in new hair growth during that time, then simply email myself and Dr. Dravid at the email address provided in the members area, and we will refund every single cent of your investment, with no questions asked. If this protocol doesn't help you like it helped me, then I don't want your money. It's that simple. But I urge you to act now and take this opportunity while you still can. Since this presentation went live, I have received multiple emails warning me to take it down, followed by official letters from 3 separate pharmaceutical companies promising legal action if it's not removed. As I explained earlier in this presentation, multiple pharmaceutical companies are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on research and development, desperately scrambling to become the first to create a drug that blocks the activation of the GPR44 receptor and inhibits the PGD2 enzyme. They know that natural ingredients have been scientifically proven to do this, but natural ingredients cannot be legally patented by pharmaceutical companies, or any company for that matter, which means Big Pharma can't make money from them. That's why they're trying to cash in on this discovery by developing an unnecessary drug. Remember, the American Hair Loss Association reports that by the age of 35, 2/3 of all men will experience some degree of hair loss, and by the age of 50, an incredible 85% of men will have significantly thinner hair, and if they're anything like I was, a rapidly receding hairline and an ever-increasing bald spot too. This is a multi-trillion-dollar market we're talking about here, so I'm sure you can see why the pharmaceutical conglomerates will do everything in their power to stop a natural treatment from ever becoming public. So far, I've resisted their demands to take this website down, and I will do for as long as I can. But I can't afford to fight Big Pharma for much longer. Eventually, I will have to take this presentation down, and it could be gone by tomorrow, or even within the next hour. So I urge you to make your decision now, while you still can. And right now, you have 3 options. Option 1, you can say, "Thanks but no thanks, David," and simply click away from this presentation. And if that's what you decide to do, I wish you all the best. But remember, by walking away now, you could be losing out on your one and only chance to get a full, thick, and healthy head of hair again, just like you enjoyed in your youth. You'll be accepting a lifetime of comb-overs, a lifetime of constantly wearing a cap on your head, and feeling insecure, self-conscious, and unattractive, where you look years older than you actually are. And let's face it, is that really what you want? When there's a proven solution staring you in the face right now? Or what about option number 2, the medication or surgical route? Here, you can choose to spend $1,000 a year on a drug like finasteride, which will do nothing more than regrow a few fluffy hairs on your head, and at best slow down the rate at which your hair falls out. Or worse, create a whole bunch of nasty side effects like the ones I experienced, such as swelling of the hands and feet, dizziness, headaches, skin rashes, difficulty urinating, and of course, erectile dysfunction. Sounds great, right? Or you can choose to have your scalp sliced open with a knife, run the risk of long-term scarring, and pay anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 with absolutely no guarantee of results. Or you can try option number 3, the safe, easy, and 100% natural option, and invest just $37 in Dr. Dravid's Regrow Your Hair Protocol, and put the program to test, completely risk-free for a full 60 days. Yes, all of the risk is on us. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. A full, thick, and healthy head of hair, just like you had in your youth. And all you need to do is click the button below. This has been David McKenna, and I look forward to hearing your success story very soon. Still here? No problem. Like I said earlier, I completely understand if you're a little skeptical about everything you've just seen and heard. After all, it's a lot to take in. I get that. And you probably still have a few questions that you'd like answering. So to help you out, I've compiled a list of the most frequently asked questions that both myself and Dr. Dravid have received. The most common question we get asked is, how does Dr. Dravid's treatment work? And how is it different from other hair loss remedies like finasteride or Rogaine? Well, first of all, Dr. Dravid's protocol is 100% natural. There are no toxic drugs involved at all. So you won't incur any nasty side effects, which are scarily commonplace with finasteride drugs like Propecia and Proscar in particular. And unlike these options, where they can set you back many hundreds of dollars each year for no real progress, Dr. Dravid's protocol costs just $37. So how does it work? Well, it works by targeting a receptor called GPR44, which binds to an enzyme called prostaglandin D2. And it's this process that effectively instructs hair follicles to stop producing hair. However, certain natural ingredients, when combined together and in just the right quantities, were shown to block the activation of the GP44 receptor, which subsequently stopped it from binding to PGD2 and enabled hair follicles to start producing new hairs again. Another question we often get asked is why the major pharmaceutical companies haven't produced a drug based on this research. And the answer is, they are. In fact, multiple pharmaceutical companies are currently fighting it out to be the first to produce this drug, because whoever gets their product onto the market first will make billions and perhaps even trillions of dollars in profits due to the huge level of demand and market size. But, as I mentioned during this presentation, this drug war won't be available for at least 10 to 12 years due to the length of time it takes to go through the research and development phase, human trials, FDA approval, and legislation processes. So as you can imagine, the last thing these companies want is for the world to know that a drug isn't necessary, because it is possible to block the activation of the GPR44 receptor with completely natural ingredients. And that's why 3 separate pharmaceutical companies are threatening both myself and Dr. Dravid with legal action. A lot of people also ask us what they receive in Dr. Dravid's protocol. So, if you're not completely sure, let me quickly confirm for you. When you place your order today, you will receive the entire program, which you will be able to download straight to your PC, laptop, cell phone, or tablet from our private members area. The program includes the main guide, which includes the exact formula you need to regrow your hair naturally, consisting of a set of special ingredients, as well as their exact amount and combinations, all clinically proven to block the GPR44 receptor. As well as the main guide, you will also receive Dr. Dravid's hair-raising recipe guide, which comes with delicious and easy-to-prepare recipes consisting of all the most powerful ingredients contained within the formula, as well as Dr. Dravid's Hairy Smoothies, which is packed full of tasty smoothie recipes that you can whip up in seconds, allowing you to keep the protocol and get the nutrients you need every day, even if you're short on time. Many people are also a little worried about ordering online and asked whether their order is secure. And if you're worried about that, don't be. Firstly, our ordering system benefits from state-of-the-art encryption. So when you place your order with us, your information is safe from interception and alteration. In fact, you can feel more secure ordering through us than from almost anywhere else on the internet. Plus, your order is protected by our 60-day money-back guarantee, which we're happy to offer because we're so confident in the success of the program. This means that all you need to do today is say maybe today, and then you can spend the next 60 days putting it to the test completely risk-free from the comfort of your own home. And if you don't see the growth you were expecting, or you change your mind for any reason at all, then all you need to do is email us at the address provided in the members area, and we will issue you with a full and prompt refund with no questions asked and no hard feelings. Finally, I often get asked how long the program will be available for, and the truth is, I honestly can't tell you. We have already been issued with legal notices from a number of pharmaceutical companies demanding that we take down this presentation. These companies are terrified that if this treatment gets out and enough people start seeing just how effective it really is, the world will know that a drug isn't necessary, and it will cost them billions in lost revenue. As you know, money talks, and we can't fight Big Pharma for much longer, because they simply will not allow a natural treatment for hair loss to hit the market and threaten their precious profits. So if you want to start regrowing your hair quickly and naturally, restore your lost confidence and self-esteem, and look years younger in the process, then I urge you to act now, while you still have the chance. To get started, simply click on the button below, and I'll see you on the inside.